Picture this: March 23, 1983. A woman named Patricia Whitmore enters the FBI office. She lied about her husband sharing classified secrets with his mistress, a dangerous game. She aimed to weaponize his security clearance, mirroring his betrayal of their vows. 3 weeks later, the FBI discovered Patricia's lie was true, a shocking twist. The mistress was a Soviet intelligence operative, a revelation beyond imagination. Bethesda, 1983. A suburb near Washington, D.C., defined by power. Government employees and defense contractors lived in modest homes. Quiet, tree-lined streets and a stable social fabric characterized the area. Newcomers could blend in easily, a key feature for Soviet operatives. Proximity to the capital and suburban anonymity made it attractive to the Soviets. The Cold War's final dangerous decade saw intense competition for secrets. Thomas Whitmore, 42, was an electrical engineer for a defense contractor. Since 1976, he had access to classified projects. His work involved naval radar systems and electronic warfare capabilities. Colleagues saw him as competent and reserved, a man of few words. He lived with Patricia and their 2 daughters on Glenbrook Road. Neighbors held barbecues and helped each other shovel snow. The marriage, after 15 years, had settled into a comfortable routine. Passion had faded, replaced by the practicalities of family life. Patricia worked as a school administrator. Their daughters were 12 and 14. But Elena Mova was anything but ordinary, though no one knew it. Born in the Soviet Union in the 1940s, she was recruited by the KGB. Trained in illegal operations, she would work under deep cover. Her legend identified her as Helen Miller, a widow from Ohio. She moved to Bethesda, ready to play her part in a dangerous game. Picture this: a family balancing life's demands, raising children and managing careers. Patricia, a school administrator, had 2 daughters, 12 and 14 years old. Little did anyone know Elena Marova was far from ordinary. Her legend, Helen Miller, a widow from Ohio seeking a fresh start. In her 30s, she was striking with dark hair and a German accent. She transcribed medical records, living alone near the Whitmore residence. Her purpose: identify Americans with access to military secrets. Cultivate relationships, manipulate them into sharing what they knew. The KGB called this human intelligence, a reliable method of gathering information. It provided detailed technical information on American weapon systems. Marova had been in the United States for 4 years by the summer of 1982. She had contacted potential targets, though none had progressed beyond acquaintance. She was patient, understanding that recruitment could not be rushed. She recognized vulnerability, professional frustration, financial pressure, loneliness. Thomas Whitmore and Elena Marova met in August of 1982 at a pool. The meeting was not accidental. Marova had been watching Whitmore for weeks. By August, she knew his routines and positioned herself for conversation. She asked him the pool's closing time, initiating casual conversation. It confirmed her suspicions. Whitmore was intelligent and socially awkward. He responded well to attention from an attractive woman worth pursuing. Over 6 weeks, Marova engineered 5 more encounters. They met at a farmer's market and a coffee shop near his office. Imagine 2 strangers meeting children playing nearby. A casual conversation begins. She confirmed her suspicions. He was intelligent and responsive to attention. He was worth pursuing, so she planned more accidental encounters. Over 6 weeks, 5 encounters were engineered to build familiarity. They met at a farmer's market, a coffee shop, and a bookstore. They also met twice At neighborhood gatherings, conversations grew longer. She asked casual questions, sensing dissatisfaction in his marriage. He spoke of obligation, resentment, feeling unappreciated at home. By October, he looked forward to seeing her, feeling anticipation. The seduction began on October 8, 1982, at a wine bar. It was deliberately social, the conversation more personal and charged. She asked about his marriage. He admitted it had become distant. He felt invisible at home, living parallel lives with his wife. She listened intently, touched his hand, offering understanding. She said he had so much to offer, but was not being seen. It was precisely what he needed to hear: validation and attention. She suggested continuing the conversation at her apartment nearby. He hesitated only a moment before agreeing to her invitation. That night marked the beginning of an affair that would consume him. He described his time with her as intense, a stark contrast to his marriage. She approached it with passion and deliberate technique. He felt desired in ways he had forgotten were possible, truly seen. She was vocal, responsive, eager, in ways that seemed spontaneous. But it was not just physical attraction that hooked him completely. Picture this. An affair began consuming Whitmore over months. He recalled it as intense, a contrast to his marriage's intimacy. She made him feel desired, using passion and technique. Her eagerness seemed spontaneous, but it was calculated. It wasn't just physical attraction. She made him feel understood. She listened, laughed, and made him feel like the most interesting man. He felt vital and alive, convincing himself it was real. In November 1982, he visited her apartment often. He became adept at lying, inventing excuses with fluency. He rationalized it as separate, not affecting his responsibilities. She accepted him, wanting only the time they had together. Their conversations covered everything, including his work. It began innocuously, with her asking about his day. He vented about work, technical challenges, and obstacles. She responded with surprising understanding of engineering. He explained his work in detail, flattered by her interest. He told her about radar jamming systems for the Navy. He described technical specifications and testing procedures. She listened with rapt attention, asking follow-up questions. He basked in her fascination, never questioning her interest. Why would a medical transcriptionist be interested in classified tech? Imagine the affair, a dangerous game of secrets and desires. Picture this: classified information, a nation's security at risk. She walked through the palace halls, knowing that her next words could start or prevent a war. In the winter of 1777, a young soldier's decision would change the course of American history. Picture this: London 1665, as the Great Plague transforms a bustling city into a ghost town. Picture this: Whitmore, flattered, eagerly explained his work in great detail. He detailed radar jamming systems for the Navy, their effectiveness, and testing. She listened intently, asking questions that encouraged him to elaborate further. He never questioned her interest in classified defense technology. In early January 1983, their conversations took a turn. She asked for technical documentation to better understand his work stress. It should have raised alarm, but he was too infatuated to hesitate. He could get less classified materials to give her a better sense. On January 18th, Whitmore brought home a confidential manual. He told himself it wasn't that sensitive, just general information. He brought the manual to her apartment that evening. She looked through it with interest, taking notes on specific sections. Whitmore felt proud, showing her his professional world. His wife was never interested in what he did. He felt a twinge of guilt about bending the rules. She photographed every page with a miniature camera. The photographs were delivered to a Soviet contact in New York. They were transmitted to Moscow via diplomatic pouch. Over the next 8 weeks, Whitmore provided more documents, technical specifications, schematics, and internal memos. Each time, she photographed the materials. Each time, Whitmore told himself he wasn't doing anything wrong. The documents weren't that critical. It was about emotional connection. He was blinded by his feelings. Picture this: a Soviet contact in New York relaying secrets to Moscow. Over 8 weeks, Whitmore provided access to vital documents. Radar jamming specs, schematics, and memos flowed freely. Each time, Whitmore rationalized his actions, downplaying the risk. He told himself it was about emotional connection, not treason. The information, though not top secret, filled critical gaps for the Soviets. By March, the operation's success led to plans for expansion. They considered promoting Whitmore to higher classification levels. But the woman had miscalculated one crucial element: Whitmore's wife. Patricia noticed the telltale signs of infidelity. Longer hours, increased attention to appearance, emotional distance. He became defensive when questioned, denying any wrongdoing. On March 6, 1983, Patricia followed Thomas. He claimed to be meeting colleagues, but drove to an apartment building. Patricia waited for 3 hours, her worst fears materializing. When Thomas emerged, devastation washed over Patricia. She sat in the darkness, feeling the confirmation of her suspicions. She needed time to think about her marriage and her family. For 2 weeks, Patricia wrestled with anger, humiliation, and uncertainty. She followed Thomas again, confirming his regular visits. She considered divorce, confrontation, or pretending she didn't know. But on March 22, 1983, she decided to confront him. Picture this: the stage is set for a confrontation. The air is thick, with unspoken accusations ready to explode. Patricia needed time to think about the discovery's impact on her marriage. She followed Thomas twice, confirming his visits to the apartment building. He always stayed for 2 to 3 hours before returning home. She considered divorce, confronting the other woman, or pretending she didn't know. She waited until late evening, after their daughters were in bed. She found Thomas in the living room, watching television. She told him she knew about the affair, that she had followed him. She knew where he was going and how often he was there. Thomas's first response was denial. When Patricia persisted, he shifted to defensiveness and then to attack. He blamed Patricia for not keeping their marriage interesting. He admitted to having an affair with a woman named Helen Miller. He blamed Patricia for letting herself go and being more interested in her job. The argument escalated into a vicious fight that lasted nearly an hour. Thomas refused to apologize, making Patricia feel his infidelity was her fault. Patricia went to bed alone, seething with anger and humiliation. Thomas slept in the guest room. Patricia replayed the argument, thinking about his betrayal. By 3 in the morning, she decided to hurt him the way he hurt her. Her only weapon was his job, his security clearance, and his access to information. She thought even an investigation might cost him his clearance and job. That seemed like appropriate punishment for what he had done to their marriage. The next morning, Patricia called the FBI's Washington field office. She reported a potential security violation. Patricia felt a sting, but revenge seemed fitting for his betrayal. The next morning, she contacted the FBI to report a security breach. She spoke with an officer, explaining her suspicions about her husband. Her husband, Thomas Whitmore, a contractor, might be sharing secrets. The duty officer pressed for evidence, but she had none. Still, she noted his suspicious behavior and frequent visits to the woman's. She agreed to give a formal statement that afternoon. On March 23, 1983, she sat in the FBI interview room. She repeated her allegations to Special Agent David Kessler. She provided Thomas's information and the location of the affair. Kessler inquired about the classified information. She confessed she lacked direct proof, only suspicions. She named Helen Miller, the mistress revealed during their fight. The 45-minute interview led to a preliminary investigation. Her allegation triggered FBI concern amid heightened espionage alerts. Since 1981, Soviet intelligence had been a major threat. Kessler confirmed Whitmore's secret clearance in security databases. Cross-checking Helen Miller revealed inconsistencies. No job history before 1979 and a suspicious social security number. On March 24th, Kessler briefed his superiors. They decided to initiate surveillance on both Whitmore and Miller. By early April, agents confirmed Whitmore's regular visits. Several times a week, he visited in the late afternoon. On April 10th, surveillance observed something concerning. Imagine a woman with no past, before 1979, shrouded in mystery. On March 24th, Kessler briefed his supervisors on the allegations. Surveillance began on both women, deeper investigations underway. By early April, visits to the apartment were confirmed several times a week. On April 10th, Miller left her apartment with a large envelope. She left the envelope in an unlocked car in a shopping center. 20 minutes later, a man retrieved the envelope and drove away. He was followed to an apartment building housing embassy employees. The dead drop confirmed Miller was an active intelligence operative. Her actions with Whitmore were part of a larger espionage operation. The FBI faced a decision: move now or continue surveillance. They didn't know what information Miller had obtained or the damage done. The decision was made to interview Whitmore to assess the breach. They hoped to secure his cooperation before Miller knew she was under investigation. On April 12th, agents arrived at Whitmore's home at 7:15 a.m. Whitmore answered the door, coffee in hand, surprised by the FBI. Kessler identified himself and asked to speak with him privately. Visibly shaken, Whitmore invited them in, telling Patricia he'd be late. The agents asked Patricia and the daughters to wait upstairs. Kessler told Whitmore they were conducting a security investigation. It involved his relationship with Miller, and they needed to ask questions. Whitmore's face went pale, his world collapsing around him. Kessler asked how long he had known Miller. He admitted since October. Had he discussed his work? He hesitated, admitting some general things. But nothing classified, he claimed. Kessler let the silence hang. Imagine two agents informing Whitmore of a security investigation. Kessler inquired about his relationship with Helen Miller. Whitmore admitted seeing her since October, a secret affair. He might have mentioned general things, nothing classified. Had he brought classified documents to her apartment? The question hit him like a physical blow, a federal crime. He stammered, admitting he might have shown her some materials. Whitmore crumbled, comprehending the magnitude of his actions. Over 3 hours, he confessed to his relationship and the documents. He admitted to bringing home 4 classified documents. Technical manuals, schematics, performance testing memos. He insisted he didn't think he was doing anything wrong. Miller seemed genuinely interested, not sensitive information. Kessler listened, without comment, taking notes meticulously. It was clear he violated security protocols out of foolishness. Not intentional espionage, but serious violations occurred. Whitmore was not arrested but under federal investigation. Miller was suspected as a Soviet operative, documents to Moscow. The revelations broke something in Whitmore, head in hands. He repeated, he didn't know, stupid, but not traitorous. Would he cooperate controlled meetings with Miller? Whitmore agreed, immediately wanting to fix what he broke. FBI moved quickly search warrant on April 14, 1983. 6:45 a.m. at Elena Mova's apartment. Morova was arrested without incident. Whitmore claimed stupidity, not treason. Would he cooperate further? He agreed, instantly desperate to prove his innocence and fix things. The FBI moved swiftly after Whitmore's confession was secured. April 14, 1983, agents raided Mova's apartment. 6:45 a.m., they knew she'd be home. Morova was arrested. Her expression suggested she anticipated this moment. A search revealed spy tools, a camera hidden in a book. Undeveloped film, a shortwave radio, and codebooks were found. Most damning copies of photos Whitmore provided were discovered. Keeping copies violated KGB protocol, a major tradecraft error. They were insurance now evidence linking her to Whitmore's leaks. Morova refused to cooperate, only giving her cover identity. She wouldn't answer questions about her background or activities. She didn't request a lawyer, offer explanations, or say anything. Prosecutors prepared espionage charges and explored a prisoner swap. The State Department approached the Soviet embassy quietly. After weeks, Soviets acknowledged Mova and discussed her return. Thomas Whitmore's fate was more complicated and uncertain. April 29, 1983, charged with espionage. His lawyers argued manipulation, deception, and emotional vulnerability. The government was receptive due to Whitmore's cooperation. A trial would expose compromised radar systems capabilities. July 19, 1983, Whitmore pleaded guilty. He admitted mishandling information, avoiding the espionage label. This avoided making any kind of future rehabilitation impossible. He was sentenced to 18 months in prison for his actions. Picture this, a nation's secrets betrayed not by ideology but by the heart. The government, keen to avoid a public spectacle, considered a deal. Thomas Whitmore, in 1983, admitted to mishandling secrets. He received 18 months but served only 14, released in 1984. His security clearance gone, his career in ruins, his marriage over. Patricia Whitmore divorced him in October 1984, gaining custody. He moved away, found work as a consultant, remarried in 1989. He lived quietly, passing away from heart disease in 2006. Helen Miller, also known as Elena Morova, never faced an American court. In August 1983, she was exchanged for American journalists. Patricia Whitmore remained silent, raising her daughters and remarrying in 1988. She later admitted regretting the marriage and affair, but not reporting Thomas. The Whitmore case, a footnote in Cold War history, a lesson in human weakness. Thomas Whitmore, not a traitor, just a man undone by a dangerous affair. Elena Morova exploited his vulnerabilities with skill and patience. Patricia, driven by rage, exposed an operation she never knew existed. The most dangerous lies are the ones that turn out true. Revenge, even justified, destroys everything it touches.